Okay, so just going to talk about my idea, how I went about it, what was involved, where I started off. The first option for the task was to choose between power and control, secrecy and privacy, or guilt and shame. So, for my initial idea, I decided that using the option of power and control could be really interesting as a concept, and I thought about creating a setting that presented a particular feeling. In terms of power, I could go with the story of overcoming the monster, which usually shows a shift in power, as the monster is usually the one who's initially in control. Like, for example, Star Wars, uh, Luke overcoming Darth Vader. I then thought about the fact that power and control can be two very different subjects. After searching around on scholar articles, I found the simple difference between the definitions of the two words were the most relevant and the most explanatory. The definition of power is the ability or capacity to do something or act in a particular way, whereas control is the power to direct a person's behaviour or the course of events, essentially making power into freedom to choose what we want to do and control the prohibition of freedom to others. We can clearly see from this that power is not just black and white. It's not just straight down, or that one person has power over the other. Power can shift from one person to another, and it's created through a relationship. For example, a leader may have control, but people who have power may not be in control or even need control. Those around you give power, but control is more of a force that's dictated by you. People that, however, have allowed someone to have power over them may feel controlled by them. In this case, it would be from fear. Overcoming this fear is a possibility that can allow a protagonist to overcome the monster and be free. As primary research, I wanted to look into fear, so I asked people, what are you afraid of the most? And does this fear have power over you? Now, most people went with spiders, and yes, it does, wasps, growing old, loneliness. But what I was really interested in was this answer. It depends. If the situation I'm in is unfamiliar, then fear could take power over me. However, fear is a natural thing in those situations and can often make you perform better. So it may not necessarily be a negative thing in some situations. Now, I thought the situational fear was the most interesting thing, as it didn't describe a specific fear, but more of a reaction to a fearful situation. Now, the quote, "Fear is the mother of morality," suggests that fear is what's used to make people choose what they think are the correct and moral decisions. Examples of this occurring include religion and dictatorship, the fact that people are led to believe that if they do what's right, they go to heaven, paradise. If they do what's wrong, they go to hell. Religion is being used as a power to control people, and because they want to do the right thing, they accept being under control. An example in film of power and control being used would be Divergent, in which the character of Janine uses a drug to enforce power onto people and manipulates these people into factions which they accept contently. When those aren't affected decide they want to be free, the threat of death is used to inflict fear. So during production, to continue the concept of fear, I decided that the scene setting would be someone hiding in the darkness from the monster that's completely aware of their victim's presence. Now, to make the scene effective and present fear in the best way possible, I originally pictured one shot throughout the entire scene, making the audience feel uncomfortable and have to wait for the shot to be over. However, after looking at other examples, I found the best way of showing tension would be to show as much as possible without showing the monster. For example, cut into a close-up of the actor's face to show fear and emotion. An example of this would be this clip from Taken, where only the monster's feet is visually revealed. To hide the monster from clear view, I could use lighting, only reveal a silhouette, and then cut back to a long shot of the entire scene. In the TV series The Walking Dead, tension is created using various techniques such as sound and showing the monster only when it's being used as a motif. as it's slow moving. And when being shown from the protagonist's point of view, you can only see a blur of the monster or a silhouette. For my monster, I wanted it to be what would stereotypically be powerless to the victim. If the victim was a man, the monster could be what looks like someone that would be harmless to them, maybe a woman or a child, therefore showing that the power they have over the victim is relationship based. To make the contrasting effect of juxtaposition make an impact, I had to think about clothing or the way the monster stands over the victim in a powerful manner. When choosing clothing, we had decided on using black boots for the actress, as the colour black is often associated with elements of power, which we often see in film. This, however, gave the actress a soldier-type theme to their persona, when, looking back on it, they should be representing femininity, more to get the idea of the power relationship across. However, in the opening shot, the first thing you see is the boots, making the monster's gender questionable until it's revealed at the end as they sit down. Unfortunately, the rest of the clothing depicted in the film makes it evident to the audience that the monster is female. To improve this, I could have made it so their clothing was completely feminine, like high heels, etc. To add to the tension and realism, the performance of the actors were very important, as well as their own performance. I looked into ways of improving the final outcome. To do this to the victim, whose close-up is seen in the film, I found that exercising them gave a genuine breathlessness, and the use of oil and water gave the appearance of sweat beads. This technique was used multiple times in a lot of behind the scenes, including Film Riot as an example here. To add to the pacing of the scene, the second shot is introduced on a camera slider. There's a slow reveal of the monster, and the slider also makes a good transition from the motion of the first shot. To start the edit, I looked at what visually worked together best in terms of lighting and the acting performances. Other elements that I thought about for the final piece included colour grading, which I really wanted to work with the lighting and show a cold blue that the audience could feel immersed in. Examples of other thrillers that use this technique are conventional. To add to the edit, I wanted to make sure the pacing gave the correct themes to be received by the audience. To do this, I only showed close-ups when necessary in order to show facial expression and keep the scene focused on one single long shot for as long as possible in order to add that uncomfortable feeling. For the sound design, I added a bass drone over the top of the synced sound to help build layers of atmosphere. I also feel that it added tension to the scene, and the consistency of the drone makes it both more immersive and more uncomfortable, as it's not a nice sound. To keep it consistent, I kept the sound going even after the shots had ended and the credits came on. To develop this idea further, I could reshoot this as an opening scene that could be either linear or a foreshadowing. There's a lot of room for expansion and development, and reshooting would mean I could change elements that I feel could be improved on, such as the sound and the way the monster's presented. Overall, in the time we were given to do the project, I'm really happy with the outcome.